it's it's important not to get stuck in the belief structures we have and systems, and to recognize that you don't need to destroy your ego. You simply need to see you're not just the ego. Because when you see you're not just the ego, that presence is not an idea. It is a presence. It's existential. It's here and now. It is not chained to conceptions of a certain time and space. It is everywhere. It is not even multidimensional, because to be separation, a dimension has to be considered where a hierarchy can even be considered to originate. Therefore, our attempts at discovering our own eyes requires first getting rid of the covers that are blocking our eyes. Some of these covers are identifications with ideas, similar how you can identify with an object or an animal. You see, Native American culture was very close with nature, and through that they understood some very deep existential values in different life forms, such as birds, such as other tigers, raven, the wolf, all these symbols. So you need to examine your life and see how much you are seeing out of the value that is present within the symbol. Everything can be deeply looked at because the depth of your eye knows no limits. When you are not hindered by your own definitions, you see an undefinable world. Thank you. And the moment is much more allowing in regards to the experience you can have of yourself. We are experiencing ourselves because we're always here when we're experiencing. And the phenomena that we are can allocate in regards to identity. So what that means is that when you're sitting down, let's say I'm sitting down in a restaurant right now, the story focus becomes the identity, and then the conditions build around it. So if I find myself, let me put a better metaphor. If I see a gazelle and a lion, if you think you're the lion, the world's against you. If you think you're the gazelle, the world is against you. If you think you're the lion, the world is with you. So it is the viewpoint that is very important. And the reason I say point, because you choose where to view things from and how to compare things in your life. The views in your life need to be shapeless, need to be formless, and then they can encompass everything rather than the separation put in. As in, what you put in is what you get out. What you consider is the consideration that reacts with the environment and its own reconsideration. You need to look at how comfortable you are when you're looking. And this is not just the physical sense. This means that every object you're seeing, look at the relevance of it to the ideas you have and to the idea that is you. And tell me if your condition is still the same. A condition is a mental translation of how you find your existing now. The condition, because it has mental value, that mental value can instantly change. You can get rid of what is keeping the light away from your condition and to be in a brighter condition. You need to understand that the ideas you had ever since growing up have left their mark in what it is to become your future. You have created the opening of how you're going to view this life, and especially it's been adjusted with certain experiences, with certain ideas, with certain programming. The reason the concept of programming is useful is you think about the programmer and you think about where your ideas came from. You see your inclinations and you see how much a sense of stuck identity is serving you. We need senses of identity when we want to bring forth constructive actions. However, some people find that by not having an identity, that means you can do whatever. No, that is going into another identity, which you're not just defining, but it's another identity. To be selfless is to look as existence, not to look as something that exists. That is where the value of your vision enhances to the depth of what is here. That is simply presence, to see what is here. If you feel that your presence, or you have heard, or there's some interest in regards to how you find your presence, and if you have control. A lot of people don't think they have control. They think it's just who you are and how you dress or whatever. No, presence is how you're acknowledging yourself in every moment. Some people acknowledge themselves very selflessly, some people acknowledge themselves very selfishly. And when it's selfish, there's usually a lot of conditions that someone needs to go through. Again, I'm going to bring back a concept I've talked about before. However, a very wise mystic, which I don't know the name and probably haven't practiced enough to pronounce, but this mystic said there are two ways of living, and one method is by thinking everything is against you and fighting for your life, and one method is seeing that you are already there and you're gravitating towards. Everything is gravitating towards bringing you the right moment in which you desire. The mind of man and the personality constructs cannot perceive infinite future potentials. That's why you're so focused on a result, and that's why when you try to achieve that result in a changing world, the changes make you feel as if you can't reach your dreams. The more accurate and efficient method of looking at yourself will be to first observe what ideas you have about yourself and who is progressing in life, what is progressing in life. Why you're progressing in life. When you ask these questions, you find the context of what your life really means. You find the meaning of your life. And you see that it is best defined by the moment. Every moment is a different act. Every moment is a new storyline. Sometimes you don't need storylines. You're all of them. Sometimes you're none of the storylines. Sometimes your physicality needs to be more active and your mental structures need to be also utilized. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes stillness and solitude serves you. To understand that you're not a dynamic outcome in this, I'll say that again. To understand that you're not a static outcome in this dynamic world is a big revelation in how your presence is going to be. How you view the present suggests your presence. In other words, if you think you are a failure, then you are literally accepting only that view of yourself, and people are going to see that you think you're a failure. It is not an efficient energy or state of mind to be in. The state of being needs to be open, needs to be free from knots that are self-created, and to understand that everything is possible when even the Nike commercials are saying it. The Nike commercial says nothing is impossible, or impossible is nothing. And there's a bit of Zen-like truth in that, where when you stop thinking of a certain possibility and where all your resources coming, there is nothing that is looking for prosperity but can always be perceived prosperous enough to gravitate that physical reality to itself. We need to look at life as if, because we're evolving, human beings are evolving, so your mental structure is the firm ground in which you're pulling the physical reality towards. In other words, if you have ideas about yourself, those ideas are engaging and changing the flow and attraction and gravitation you have towards yourself and physical reality. It's much slower, of course, because when I think about, for example, a pizza in this restaurant I am, it's not here. You need to wait for processes to act. However, these processes are behaving based on our mental stature. And it is really important to keep your mental stature dynamic by being aware of the moment. When you're aware of the moment, you allow your presence. The mind doesn't need to think it's stuck. That's making your mind work too hard for no reason. That is not using your mind, in my view, of course. I'm just one person, properly. So what I'm really suggesting here is that regardless of the Zen value you see in my words, really look at how you're utilizing your concepts of mind and what contexts they're opening for you. For example, for an atheist, the concept of God does not bring up an experiential context. In other words, someone who doesn't believe in God, when he hears that, he thinks of a ridiculous story, but he doesn't understand that same value in the story of origin is the same origin story you've given yourself as a name, as a character here. You don't need to doubt another story or just agree to certain stories. You need to understand that the storyteller is the experiencer, and that is why we don't seek what the experience is. We seek what is experiencing. And that begins your search for your own self and what that really means. So hopefully with these words, you look on the ideas of who you are and find that the greatest value is found in the moment of your own being. Look at yourself now. You're alive. Work with the greatest and most clear value that you see yourself being existentially, and know that when you breathe, you're breathing for all of us. Thank you.